New videos every day. Life, wisdom.
This was someone that I had known not only as a physician, my own personal doctor, but someone that I had called on professionally that knew what my knowledge base was and how that he insisted I defer my personal power to him and follow his instruction, even though it went against the grain of everything that I knew to be appropriate. For example, I was on a cocktail of different drugs where they initiated one therapy. When that therapy, I started to react to that. Of course, he told me to double the dose. I did that. I got more toxic. And then they changed the drug. First, he said he was going to add another drug, but I refused to put two drugs together because I knew I wouldn't be able to identify without a washout period. And of course, I wasn't offered a washout period, which what a washout period is that once that you institute one psychiatric drug and you come off of it, you're supposed to have a period of at least 2 to 4 weeks that you wash out from that drug where it gets out of the body, out of the bloodstream before you add on another therapy. That is never done. Practically, doctors never do that.
And I can say from personal experience with my mother, when she was going through her journey with psychiatric drugs, it was that exact thing that you're describing. She would be on some drugs, there would be adverse reactions, watched her go from a coherent person into one of these patients that you see in the psych hospitals where they're just not coherent, not aware. I saw her lose all of these faculties that she had. And then at each point that there was any change in the medication, it was always adding of a drug.
Right.
Adding a new drug. And I even, from my perspective of not even being a doctor, went, well, wouldn't that make it hard to know which drug is causing which symptoms if you don't give that, as you call it, a washout period?
Exactly. And then one drug can potentiate the other drugs. When drugs are used in combination, they potentiate one another very frequently, which means one drug will make the other drug stronger. So instead of having maybe 2 times the amount of drug in your system, now you have 10 times the amount of drug in your system because the other combined drug has caused that potentiation factor. So I knew that, and I knew I should have had a washout period, and I knew that when they doubled the dose that the symptoms became more severe. That logically said to me, and of course my logical mind was out to lunch at this point in time, but that logically would have said to me that I was having an adverse drug reaction. But that was not what my doctor had been indoctrinated to believe. My doctor had been indoctrinated to believe that I was not responding to the drug, that it was my own physical, personal biology that was the problem, and not the chemical entity that he had instituted in his therapy.
Wow.
And that is what I really spend most of my time trying to educate people about, to be quite frank with you, is informed consent. You cannot give informed consent if you are given disinformation.
Right. If you're not informed in the first place.
And if you think that you're given information that's correct and it isn't. So that's what I'm saying. You may be thinking you're giving informed consent because you've been told something. But if you're not given the correct information and these people are not knowledgeable that are prescribing the drugs many times, and someone will say, well, a psychiatrist should know what they're doing. Well, yes, a psychiatrist should know what he's doing, and more than likely he or she does. But that doesn't mean that their intentions are all good. Because what I also came to realize because having called on psychiatry is that they are now a profession that only does drug therapy. They're only doing biochemical intervention. Therefore, if we prove that biochemical intervention is not the way to go, we are going to have a whole profession of people that will be out of business and out of a job.
I hear that argument as well. Well, psychiatrists know what they're doing. Psychiatrists know about the drugs, but a large percentage of psychiatric medications are actually prescribed by general practitioners.
More than likely these days, yes. Now you not only have psychiatrists prescribing these products, but every general practitioner and his brother is prescribing them, as well as pediatricians on occasions.
Right.
So, I mean, you have a vast group of individuals out there that have not only not been educated on this, on these drugs, but they haven't really had the experience that psychiatry has to even see how these patients respond on these drugs, to identify an adverse event, to be able to put their finger on the fact, because what happens is with psych drugs, the adverse events mimic the very things that they were given the drugs for to treat.
In the first place.
Exactly. So that's why it was, every patient that has an adverse event comes back saying, well, you're going to be on the drugs for the rest of your life because we thought you were depressed. But now that you've had this, manic reaction, we've recognized, just like they told me, this is part of a bipolar spectrum disorder. And now you're going to be on these drugs for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. And if you buy into that, you are. Because these are brain damaging therapeutics that long term will ensure that you are a lifelong customer for the pharmaceutical industry. You will not have one diagnosis. You will have a whole book full of diagnoses by the time your life is ended. And your life will be truncated by 25 to 35 years.
Wow.
Count on it. If you're on one of these drugs. And I say that not to scare people. I say that to inform people. I'm not trying to be a sensationalist about this, but I am trying to get people to understand that it's time to confront this situation. We have a society that is over-medicated, but not only are they over-medicated with drugs for everything that you can think of, they are mind-altered because of psychotropic drugs, and it is causing a severe problem in society that has to be addressed.